How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We got a lot to get into here today on the show. If you missed it, there's huge news coming out of UFC, which of course broke literally 1 minute after we went off the show yesterday. Otherwise, we would have talked about it ad nauseum on the show. We probably will do so here today. If you are a UFC pay-per-view purchaser, and you normally go to your television, your cable box, and you scroll down to the pay-per-view channel, you click on it, and you click order, and you've got your pay-per-view there on the screen. It's done. You can't do that anymore. It's over as of right now. From this point forward, if you want to buy a UFC pay-per-view, this is what you have to do if you're in the United States. First off, you have to subscribe to ESPN Plus, $4.99 per month. Once you subscribe to ESPN Plus, if you watch the shows on your phone or on a tablet, you've got to get the ESPN app. And if you want to watch the shows on your television, you need to get an Apple TV or a Roku or a smart TV. Put the app on there. You can only order UFC pay-per-views through ESPN Plus. You can only watch them via the ESPN Plus app. Traditional pay-per-view through your cable provider is over. It's done. Part of a new deal by UFC. Their television deal has been expanded 2 more years, and pay-per-view prices dropping from $64.99 to $59.99. However, that $59.99, you still have to pay the $4.99 for ESPN Plus. So basically, the pay-per-views cost the same amount. They're doing a bundle. You can pay $80 and get a year's worth of ESPN Plus and 1 pay-per-view. Not every pay-per-view. This is not like the WWE Network where you pay $9.99 a month and you get every pay-per-view. You must sign up for ESPN Plus. You must buy the pay-per-views on top of that through ESPN Plus to watch on ESPN Plus. We can talk more about this after the break. Raw and more. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive presumably will be on here soon. Got a lot to talk about here today. Take your phone calls, emails, text messages, and more. 844-411-5411. That is 844-411-5411. Obviously, the big story today is the UFC dumping traditional pay-per-view. Everybody liked to talk over the last couple of years about how pay-per-view is dead. Traditional pay-per-view is dead. The reality is traditional pay-per-view not dead, but now it is dead because UFC killed it. The only things going to be left on traditional pay-per-view are the occasional big boxing fight, although a lot of the boxing fights are moving to DAZN, and WWE still does about 20,000 buys on pay-per-view for their shows, which is a key here, by the way. And a couple of other wrestling companies run pay-per-views, but in general, I mean, UFC was the big money generator on pay-per-view, and they have pulled out as a result of this new ESPN deal. So the situation as noted is that ESPN is paying UFC a rights fee, and the rights fee is approximately the equivalent of 500,000 pay-per-view buys for each show. So a lot of these UFC pay-per-views, if Conor McGregor, John Jones, etc. are not involved, they're not doing 500,000 buys. So UFC is obviously making a lot more money off of this deal. They may be making a percentage on top of everything else. So UFC was not making this deal without it being financially viable to them. And ESPN is paying out the ass to UFC for this. So they're making more money as a result of this deal. Obviously, the feeling is Endeavor's looking to go public, and so they're doing everything they can to get their ducks in a row. ESPN Plus at 2 million subscribers. Obviously, they want to bump that up even more by moving UFC pay-per-views to ESPN Plus. This has virtually no effect on myself. It's going to on a lot of people, but I cut the cord a long time ago. The only negative to me is that I would order the UFC pay-per-views through Apple TV. And Apple TV had a deal where, it wasn't a deal, but you could buy the high-def version for $64.99, and you could buy the low-definition version, the standard definition version, for $54.99. But the gimmick is that Apple TV doesn't air anything in standard definition. So basically, if you bought the standard definition UFC pay-per-view, you could watch it in high definition on Apple TV. So basically, I saved myself $10 every show through this loophole on Apple TV. Loophole is gone. You can no longer order the shows through Apple TV. You can no longer order the shows through any platform other than ESPN Plus. So you have to pay your $4.99 for ESPN Plus. Then you must buy the pay-per-views on top of that for $59.99 on ESPN Plus. They're obviously figuring that they can boost the ESPN Plus numbers. They feel there is a younger audience watching UFC that understands this technology. As I noted, there are going to be issues with the 20,000 or so people that buy WWE pay-per-views. The reason they buy pay-per-views and don't subscribe to the WWE network is because they can't. Their internet speed sucks, or they're unable to even get high-speed internet in their area, and the only option for them is to order the shows through their traditional pay-per-view provider. So if you're living in one of those areas, and I don't even know if you can listen to the show if you are. I guess you could on traditional radio, but if you're living in one of those areas where your internet service sucks, then this is it. You have no other option. It's only ESPN Plus. I believe Mike has now joined us. Any thoughts on any of this?
I've been here since the jump. I swear I have been. And, hearing you talk about this, the first thing I thought of is anybody out there with like microwave internet or satellite internet that is incredibly limited, because that's going to be a pain for you, if not just because of your internet speed. If you are watching on your phone or a device that defaults back to your phone service and your 3G and your 4G and all of that sort of stuff, you're going to be in trouble there too, because unless you have an unlimited allowance, and you're going to end up relying on that, and that's going to suck up a lot of it too. But that's, I guess, the evolution of things. And it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy that we're actually almost able to put an end date on traditional pay-per-view anymore. And there was a cable system in Ohio called the Cube Cable System in 1977 that was created, and American Express had backed it. There were a couple of business people. Time Warner Communications had involvement in it, and they were the first ones to basically kind of offer pay-per-view as we know it, because everything else was just closed circuit. And that's all you could do. You went to the bar, you went to the movie theater, you went wherever, and you were able to see events like the Snake Canyon Jump and big boxing events and things like that. And this cable company in Ohio had this revolutionary idea, and they built and built and built, and it didn't quite work out. The money wasn't there, but from it spawned MTV. It ended up spawning Nickelodeon. It ended up spawning how we interact with our cable boxes, things that would not have been seen and were not seen in regular play for 25 years after, until 25 years after that, they were doing. And the first pay-per-view that I could find, like a pure boxing pay-per-view that I was ever able to find, was from 1978. It was a fight at the Spectrum between this Pennsylvania boxer, Augie Pantelis, who his really, I guess, only real claim to fame, if you try to look him up, he fought Bobby Chacon for the I think it was the super featherweight title, and he faced a guy named Isaac Vega on January 17, 1978, and that, I believe, and I'd have to go back and double check my research, but I think that fight from the Spectrum that was offered for $2 for anybody that was subscribing to the Cube cable system, that was one of the first pure pay-per-views I could find that was not, and just happened to be on a cable system or happened to migrate to cable and was not shown elsewhere on closed circuit. I mean, it was done directly for the people that were watching that channel, and it's really kind of crazy. I know there was an HBO Polka Festival, technically that was years before that, but that pay-per-view I think was one of the first pure sporting ones that was ever on there. And it's just, we've gone now all of that time, nearly 40 years later, and boxing has left in droves to go onto these streaming services that threw these promoters insane amounts of money to take their fighters off pay-per-view and guarantee them money. And I don't know where all of that's going to go. It's really interesting with the amount of money that's been thrown out there by the ESPN Pluses and the DAZNs and things like that. And these are major companies internationally that have a lot of money, can sit in this for a long time, but will these deals be worth it to them? And once they're done, could we see a return to traditional pay-per-view? Who knows? But it's just amazing that finally the UFC is off of it. And I'm amazed that these cable operators, because In Demand right now, it's not like In Demand's a separate group. It's being run by Xfinity and Charter and Cox cable companies. I mean, why they would want to cut their nose off to spite their face is amazing to me, because it doesn't, I don't think, really cost you anything else to have a dedicated pay-per-view channel, and the days of 50-50 and 60-40 are over. You know, nobody orders porn at home anymore, like when the internet is there. Nobody does a lot of things now because the internet is there. So who is buying pay-per-view? It's people who are buying wrestling and boxing and mixed martial arts. And who cares if the split is 70-30 or even 80-20? If it's a lot better than getting zero. And I'm surprised that they ended up going in this direction and have not been able to work out anything with ESPN or UFC to end up letting this happen.
Person says, I have the highest tier of internet from my provider. ESPN Plus always lags. Same goes for others I have talked to. Very annoyed at the pay-per-views all moving to ESPN Plus. This person wants to know, how does the ESPN Plus UFC deal affect bars that usually show the pay-per-views but don't have a setup with TVs that can use the ESPN Plus app? They don't count. The commercial business is still run by UFC. So if you normally go to a bar to watch the show, if you're a bar operator, nothing will change for you. You will still get the pay-per-views the exact same way. So this is only U.S. residential customers. If you're outside the country, you'll still do things the way that you used to do it. So some of you may want to move to Canada. Back in a moment to talk Raw, Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. So as happens every single Monday on the show, start talking about things from Raw. Oh, there's no way Baron Corbin will be the opponent for Kurt Angle in his retirement match. There's been no mention whatsoever of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, the Women's Battle Royal. Then, of course, that night, they announced the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Braun Strowman is in it. And they announced that Kurt Angle's opponent at WrestleMania is Baron Corbin. I got 1,000 text messages here. It's been all over Twitter. Everybody is furious about Baron Corbin, okay? Now, before I tell you about Baron Corbin, I just want to remind you all of something. And that is that many years ago, CM Punk came out on the ramp and he did his famous pipe bomb promo. And he ranted about the McMahons, and he said everything that every fan was feeling about the product. He got over as Jesse James, a cult babyface. That promo, Vince McMahon designed it to be a heel promo. He thought that CM Punk saying all of those things about the company, you'd be so angry at CM Punk, and you would take it out on him. Totally tone deaf. So anyway, I can tell you that things can change. They've changed many times. They've changed regularly over the course of the past 2 months. They changed drastically with Kofi Kingston. They have changed with Charlotte and Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. This could change. In fact, my gut tells me it's going to change. But as of yesterday, when they made the announcement that Baron Corbin was Kurt Angle's opponent at WrestleMania, it was not a swerve. It was not designed to be a swerve. There were no plans to replace Baron Corbin. As of yesterday, when they shot that angle, Kurt Angle's opponent at WrestleMania was Baron Corbin. Now, this got so much negative feedback that Michael Cole on television acknowledged how angry people were about this. Kurt Angle's wife went on Twitter and tweeted about what a bad decision this was, and then deleted her tweets. Kurt Angle had to go on Twitter and basically say, I know you guys aren't happy with this, but I really want to tap this guy out at WrestleMania, and I hope you will be there for my big moment. Okay? So, again, my gut tells me they're probably going to change it. They may put John Cena in there, which is the match it should be. But as of yesterday, this was their idea. Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. And by the way, for that guy that called a couple of days ago and was talking about what a great heel Baron Corbin was, dude, when Kurt Angle said that the man he wanted to face was a man who had made his life a living hell, you could hear people in the audience screaming, "No!" And when he announced Baron Corbin, they died. This is not good heat. This is bad heat. This is a bad decision by WWE. But that's what the decision is right now. Baron Corbin. I can't wait.
Well, to be fair, they never promised us John Cena. They didn't promise anybody. They just said Kurt was going to have an announcement, and everybody went, well, we hope it's not Baron Corbin, and started to fantasy book him. So it's your fault, people. It's all of our faults for hoping that they would do something that wasn't very obvious that they were going to do now in hindsight when I look at this, because why else would they do anything else? But I think like you, my gut, especially when he was rolled up and pinned by Apollo Crews, that's when the bell went off that maybe we could see, now we have an excuse to take Baron Corbin out of the match. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but I kind of hope that they do. Either that or have a situation where Angle taps him out in like 2 seconds and he's gone, and then John Cena comes out and challenges him and Cena can get the win or something like that. I don't know. I cringe at this just because it's a waste of time for Angle. I don't want to see it on a show that's going to be 75 hours long, even though I love seeing Kurt Angle, and I'm happy that this is going to be it for him and he gets a big send-off on a big stage and everything, but it's just going to be a long show, and I don't want to see this. And now I'm wondering, okay, where does this leave John Cena, and what wacky match are we going to have him in that probably is just going to have almost as much interest, if not even less, because he's not retiring?
So this person here says, Kurt Angle can have his retirement match against Hornswoggle, and people will complain a bit, but they will still watch regardless. Listen, this company's not going out of business. It's going to be very difficult for them to drop below 1.75 million viewers for Raw, okay? It's going to be very difficult. WCW, at the bottom of the barrel when they went out of business, was still doing 2 million something viewers, okay? There is a level that they will not fall below. However, they are 15 to 20% below where they were last year. 15 to 20% of their audience, my friend, did stop watching. And the WWE Network, their churn this year was greater than their churn the year before. So, in fact, this is not true that everybody will keep watching. Yes, most people are going to keep watching. This is an abused, battered audience that they're just going to take everything and they're going to keep watching. But there are some people that are going to quit. Now, I still believe that the absolute bottom of the barrel is 1.75 million viewers, and we're nowhere near that. We're quite a ways away. And Raw broke 3 million the other week, so the ship is not sinking. But don't think that you can't run off fans, because they have, and you can. But no, it's not the end of the world. What else do we have on Raw last night? The announcement that Braun Strowman is in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, so that Battle Royal's taken place. They've made no mention of a women's Battle Royal, but I presume there is going to be one. And the rest of the WrestleMania card is beginning to take shape, as they say. We have Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky for the Raw Women's title.
Can I have more of that Ronda? The Ronda that doesn't talk and just...
I'll get to her in a second. Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Triple H, Batista, No Holds Barred, AJ, Randy Orton, Kurt Angle, Baron Corbin, Shane McMahon versus The Miz, Buddy Murphy versus the winner of Cedric Alexander versus Tony Nese. We have the 2 Battle Royals and much more to be announced. There's going to be a lot of matches on this show. And yes, Ronda Rousey last night, if people didn't like Becky Lynch so much, Ronda Rousey would so quickly be the biggest babyface on this roster.
Well,
they booked her like Stone Cold last night. She destroyed somebody. She beat the hell out of security. She stood her ground and everybody else backed down, and she walked off defiantly. I mean, I was just astounded.
A great visual, because she was lifted out by Travis Brown, who just laid a guy out and sold with no expression whatsoever and just dragged her. I thought that actually kind of made it too. So, yeah, I mean, the whole thing from top to bottom was great. And the best part, she didn't talk. There's no 4D chess being played with her promos. Her promos have gotten off the rails. The character has gotten off the rails. The story has gotten off the rails. For the next 3 weeks, I want to see Becky beat people up. I want to hear Charlotte bitch and be a catty heel. And I want to see Ronda be Ronda doing that basically with as much edge as you can keep on her so people don't cheer her. At least try to limit that as much as you can. And if you include Travis Brown in that, and that's why you're doing it, I'm fine with that. But just do this leading into the match because you have proven over the WWE over the past couple of weeks that everything that you've added has just watered it down, made it a bigger pain. And frankly, if some of this goal was to make sure that Becky got cheered and the other two didn't, it's not working because now Ronda, sooner or later, because of doing stuff like this, is going to get cheered.
This person says, I think Baron is a good choice. This would be a great launching point for Baron to turn his go-away heat into regular heat by beating Kurt Angle in his last match should Kurt decide to put him over on his way out. You think if Baron Corbin beats Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, he's no longer going to have go-away heat, but he's going to have good heat? Are you kidding me? I presume that's got to be a joke text, but I don't think it is. This person here says, I want to see...
I think because Baron Corbin does he does handle himself well. It's not like he gets flustered when nobody's reacting to him. He does know how to be a smarmy prick. He does interact. He does do some things he does do good things in that way. But watching him wrestle is not the most funnest thing in the world. And the bottom line is he's just not over and getting the reaction that you want him to get. And this is a waste of time for a match. I mean, just because somebody does some things well doesn't mean that, and we've seen the same guy for how long?
Person says, I want to see badass Ronda Rousey beat Charlotte and Becky now.
Well, see, there you go.
I saw a bunch of those actually last night. That's not anything that is. I'm not saying that's everybody, but I did get a few of those last night.
No, but the hardcore Becky set isn't going to be happy at this because they're just rolling their eyes and going, "See, this is exactly the company's plan anyway. We told you they always love Ronda more."
This person says, I actually flew to Chicago to attend Raw in person last night. I thought the show left a lot to be desired. Really? I thought it was all right. I kind of liked the show actually.
I didn't. I mean, it was, I would say, less offensive, less bad than some other weeks. I don't know if inoffensive would be good, but, I mean, I guess. It was just a pedestrian show that had some better moments than usual.
I thought the opening segment was good. I thought Finn and Braun versus Leo and Lashley was pretty good, even though we got another breakup angle, with people defending it, saying it wasn't a breakup angle.
It's not. I don't know if that's a breakup angle, other than just jerk heel cowers while little guy gets beat up. We've seen that a lot.
All of the Alexa Elias stuff sucked. Angle versus Chad Gable, I loved that segment. I loved it.
Yeah, that was good.
We had the Natty Sasha, and that stuff wasn't good. Ricochet Jinner wasn't good, but Rousey was good, and Corbin Apollo sucked. Sit down with Big Dave was awesome. And the main event was great. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
This is Jim from Virginia. How you doing, Brian and Mike?
What's up, Jim?
I was watching Raw last night, and I'm like you. I thought it was pretty good myself. I liked the segment with Beth Phoenix and Natty and Bayley and Sasha.
Well, that wasn't my favorite, but...
I just liked it where Bayley and Sasha act like two little bitches out there.
Oh, careful here, Jim. Yeah, where's my poll about whether Sasha's a babyface or a heel?
Nobody knows.
Certainly was a heel last night.
Nobody knows. But if I did a poll today, it would say that she's a babyface. People will it to existence.
Now, this deal with Beth, is she coming back for... It's going to be for the WrestleMania show?
It sure sounds like they're going to be in the WrestleMania match. It's going to be a multi-team match. It sounds like Natty and Beth are one of the teams. So I guess they couldn't get like Trish and Lita. Or maybe they'll still announce that later. I don't know.
They just reunion for the Divas of Doom, in other words.
I guess so, yeah.
So there'd be like a triple threat tag team match. Would it be the Tamina and Nia Jax against Natty and Bayley and Sasha?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call, Jim. Take care of yourself. Yeah, the idea I originally heard was a Raw team, SmackDown team, NXT team. But it looks like there are now 2 Raw teams. So I guess they could call Natty and Beth Phoenix like the Legends team or something. And then we've got like the Legends team, the Raw team, SmackDown, NXT. I don't know what they're going to do. But that appears to be 2 teams in that match. So I guess we shall see.
Are they doing a women's Evolution pay-per-view this year?
I don't know. I presume so. I presume they'll do it every year.
Such a lack of tag teams. I mean, if you wanted to, and they could resist the urge to turn them on each other, Becky and Sasha could hold those belts the entire summer into fall, and whenever the Evolution pay-per-view is, then face Trish and Lita.
Person says, holy smokes, that Jinder versus Ricochet match was horrible. Jinder did 3 straight minutes of chin locks in a 5-minute match. Yeah, I told you guys about that. It's wretched. It's absolutely wretched. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hello, what is the deal with Sami Zayn?
What do you mean, what's the deal with him?
When will he be returning?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. He's going to be back either... I don't know when he's going to be back. We had a claim that he was going to be back last night, but it was incorrect. And he could be back anytime. He could be back after Mania. If he's not back soon... Remember I said this Monday about the Battle Royals. If he's not back soon, probably won't be till after Mania. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. We got SmackDown tonight with the Gauntlet. It's opening up the show.
Speaking of SmackDown, before you even get into that, last week they had that, what was it, 6-man or whatever with Rusev and Nakamura and Sheamus and all that stuff. If you watch that match, as it goes to break... I'm trying to think of how many chin locks took place in that. I mean, they basically tagged out and put chin locks on. It was like there were 2 during the break, and then they come back, and it's like, then Sheamus grabbed one, and then he tagged out, and then Nakamura grabbed a chin lock, and it's like, it's not, I know Baron and Jinder make it look the worst, but they are just, again, I don't know if it's the agenting or whatever it is, or just the style of how they do TV. My God, it's constant with that stuff.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, this is Ishmael in Virginia.
What's going on?
So if you remember back about a year ago, the debate sort of started where people were trying to argue that The Miz is a great promo instead of just a great talker.
Yep.
He's currently in a program that has had cumulative, maybe the most airtime of any of the WrestleMania matches with the longest build. It's turned into a blood feud now with his father, of course, getting beaten up. And now with the big angle set up, The Miz should conceivably, either tonight on SmackDown or in the coming weeks, cut a promo.
This is true. It's money promo time.
It should be the time where he cuts this great promo where someone in his position, if he's such a great promo, would, get everyone really, really, really into this match. So my question is, do you think he'll be able to do it? Will they give him the opportunity to do it, or will he just have a talking segment, a Miz TV type segment where he says some cool things, but no one is juiced up to see the match?
I'll tell you exactly what I think is going to happen.
They've invested a lot in this,
my friend. This is what's going to happen. Are you ready? You take this to the bank. You can even put this on the internet if you want to, everybody. Miz is going to come out, and he's going to cut a very angry promo, and I am not going to believe one word of it. But he is going to deliver it well, and everybody else is going to say that he's the best promo in the company. That's what's going to happen. Just you wait. Could happen tonight. We could be recapping this tomorrow here on the show.
My prediction is no matter what happens, you're going to bitch about somebody who bitches about and says that about Mrs. Promo and or Becky being over.
Now, I only do it if it's an extensive amount of people that are bombarding me. If it's just 1 or 2, I ignore it. Person says, as a fan, I laughed when they announced it was Corbin. I have a feeling he will win, however. I don't think he's winning, but I do not put anything past them. I put nothing past them. This person says it was WrestleMania season, but I was really hoping to see Roman. The crowd was ready to embrace him. Well, they've learned some lessons about Roman. They know that a guy's more over when he's not on TV all the time, and so they held him off TV. And if they advertise him as being there, I don't know what to tell you. I believe they actually did pull him from advertising, believe it or not. So I have to give them credit there. They're not just advertising him everywhere and he's not showing up. They actually pulled him to sell this beating. So there you go. Everybody chanting, "We want Cena," this person says. When was the last time that happened? Well, it's been a while. It has definitely been a while. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, this is Andrew from Chicago. How you guys doing?
What's happening?
So I was actually at the show last night, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on the, so I understand that it's Chicago, so, it's more often than not they're going to chant for CM Punk, but it felt really annoying when they were trying to force a CM Punk chant during the main event with Seth and Drew, when it's, the two top guys on the brand. It's no one's really going to chant for him then. I get it during, the Elias and No Way Jose segment, because that's kind of a dud, but I want to know your opinions on, it feels forced now, and I'm a fan of his, too, but it seems out of place a lot of the time now.
Well, I didn't hear anything during the main event. I did hear them chanting during Batista's deal on the big screen, but that was a long, Batista whispering almost, sit-down interview on the big screen, so I could see the live audience being bored. I loved the promo. I thought Batista was great. I didn't hear it during the main event. If people tried during the main event, it did not appear to come across on television, so it was a waste of their time.
Yeah, it felt like it was getting drowned down by Seth Rollins' chants, too, though.
I want to know about the reaction when he announced Baron Corbin.
I mean, it was everyone was no, this can't be happening, and then we all just kind of sat there depressed.
So exactly as it came across on television.
Basically, yes.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for the call. Hope you had fun otherwise last night. I mean, I like going to Raw. It's a little harder to watch on TV.
I still want to know where this guy who said he flew in, where he did it from.
Well, maybe I got a million texts. I'll look through them here. Person says there's no Evolution pay-per-view in this year's pay-per-view calendar. That does not mean they could not add it as they did last year.
Have a special event.
This person here says, I have to plan my lunch and dinner at the stadium, so I hope they split the Miz match and the Corbin match accordingly. This person's not interested in Miz versus Shane McMahon. It's the first Miz and Shane McMahon match I'm kind of intrigued about for WrestleMania, because they're wrestling each other. Can you imagine? Shane doesn't do anything safe, and Miz doesn't do anything dangerous, and they have to wrestle each other. This is the most intriguing match in all of WrestleMania. And by the way, this guy says, I flew in from Nashville, no joke. Okay, well, the next question is why? I mean that in the nicest way possible, but that's a long flight to go to a Raw. I need to know what happened here.
I was saying, was there anything else that surrounded this trip? Do you really like deep dish pizza? Do you have some business up there? Did you just really think that 3 weeks out, this is the show? I know Brock's going to be there. I predict Brock's going to be there. I'm going to the show. I need to know more about this trip.
This person says when Corbin defeats Angle at Mania, he will win with the Iron Claw. Don't think that's happening. Although if he put on that Iron Claw and then Thugonomics Cena came out, now we got a story.
Now that's better.
Now we've got a story. The person says that's just the old way of retiring. You put someone over as you leave. Well, yeah, that is. You could look at it that way, but it ain't going to get Corbin over, and it's just going to make everyone depressed.
Oh, that's funny.
So I don't see.
We just talked about that yesterday. If you're going to do that story, when you do that story, you do it at the tail end of a story that you told. This isn't a story that you're telling where you're going to boost somebody and put them over. They've been in and out of this thing with Baron Corbin for how long? They did it because it's right there.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on? Hello. Going once. Going twice. Fail. Nice try. That's it for calls. Got too many texts anyway. Oh, this person just says, you may have just sold me more on Miz versus Shane than they have. Well, thank you. And I'm just telling you what's going on. I'm not even trying to make a goofy story. This person here says, Braun Strowman at one point was the most over guy on Raw. What is WWE thinking, putting him in the dumb battle royal? Well, what they're thinking is, he's not the most over guy anymore. So, hey, you know what? I've had people suggest this. Maybe he'll... I guess it wouldn't work because it's not a Royal Rumble. But people were thinking he could be eliminated by a surprise entrance by Lars Sullivan. They could feud. But You don't do surprise entrance in a battle royal, so there you go. This person says, I cannot believe what I heard yesterday. Chicago crowd chanting that they want Cena. Yes. That's how much they dislike Baron Corbin. And it's not like they don't... And here's the thing. They don't want him in the match. This is the kind of heat we're talking about, guys. We're not talking about, oh, what a great heel Baron Corbin is. People can't wait to see Kurt Angle beat him up. No, they don't want him in the match. They want him off the show. They'd rather have John Cena. The Chicago crowd. This is go-away heat. Bert says, do you expect call-ups a day after Mania with all that's gone on? Dude, this question cannot be answered. Like, Vince called up 4 guys over the weekend a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they do have a superstar shakeup coming up a couple of weeks after Mania, so he could have call-ups then. I guess they could put some on Raw the next night. They traditionally call somebody up, but it's whatever Vince decides when he wakes up in the morning, which probably changes 30 times before Raw. So I'm afraid I cannot give you anything even resembling an answer. Bert says, I like the idea. Corbin taps in 2 seconds, and they recreate the Cena Ruthless Aggression debut. Yeah, they could do that. It'd be way better. And John Cena can then beat the guy. That's fine. I mean, I'd rather Angle won, but as long as he's not losing to Corbin.
And really the way everything is right now with John Cena, I mean, it's not like it was before. It's not like Cena, anybody would care the next 6 months when Cena came back. It's not like he's going to be there on the reg. Kurt Angle can beat John Cena. He really could and would go out of there. I don't think it would happen, but I mean, you could easily do that and not miss a beat.
This person says, I flew in solely for Raw. I flew back this morning. I go to at least one show every year on the road to WrestleMania to get pictures with the sign and see the stars. Well, there you go. Good for you. Cool. I hope you had a good time.
But if you could do it, I think New Japan would also like it to see if you could fly down to Dallas on 4th of July weekend and buy some of those tickets.
This person says, good heat is Chad Gable using Angle's own hold on him. Bad heat is having Jim Ross call a Mania match underwhelming. Well, dude, if a Mania match is very underwhelming, Jim Ross should call it underwhelming. That's how you keep your credibility as an announcer. Not by going out there and talking about everything is great. Or whatever the hell they're doing with, like, Renee and I mean, she's out there, like, she gets so mad at the Drifter for beating up her husband, but then the Drifter comes out later and she's so excited to see him. Like, what is this? Back in a moment, Observer Live. All right, so I got a text here, which reminds me of something. This person says, Retro Raw tonight, 19 years ago this week. One of the best backstage segment botches I've ever seen. I replayed it back several times. I haven't watched Retro Raw yet, but I watched Retro Nitro. And we were talking about Miz and Shane and how excited I am for that match because Miz never does anything dangerous and Shane never does anything safe. It's like UFC 1, these two getting in the ring together. On that note, on the Retro Nitro from 19 years ago this week, there was a Lex Luger versus Vampiro match from the year 2000. Okay? This is like the closest thing I can think of to Miz versus Shane McMahon. Lex Luger versus Vampiro. And you know what? It was really good. Like, it was... When it was over, I thought, you know what? Given the style clash here and each man's level of wrestling acumen, American style, this may be the greatest match I've ever seen.
Oh, Jesus.
It overachieved to that degree. So,
I can't believe you're comparing those two to these two.
Miz versus Shane could steal the show at Mania, everybody. It could. It won't. It could. We're out of time. We'll talk more about all this tomorrow. I'll be back later on tonight with the Retro Show. Brian, Vinny, and Craig, only at WrestlingObserver.com. Thanks, Mike Mike, as always. Callers and listeners, everybody in the studio, Wrestling Observer Live.